Max Weber, one of the greatest sociologists in history, dedicated his life to understanding the transformations that modernity brought to society. At the center of his analysis was the advance of rationality, the calculated, logical, and efficient way of thinking that shaped the modern world. For Weber, this rationality manifested itself in institutions, bureaucracies, economic systems, and even in everyday life. Technical, scientific, and administrative reason became the engine of progress, a tool for dominating nature and organizing social life. Yet behind this glorious advancement lurked a dark secret, a high price that few dared to acknowledge. Weber called this cost the disenchantment of the world. With rationalization, mystery, magic, tradition, and the symbolic meaning of life were progressively lost. The world became a cold, impersonal machine, where calculation replaced emotion and bureaucracy replaced humanity. This transformation not only shaped the social structure, but also profoundly affected the human spirit, generating a sense of existential loss and emptiness. As rational institutions expanded, they created a kind of iron cage, an invisible prison made of rules, norms, routines, and procedures that limited individual freedom. The rationality that was supposed to free man from superstition ended up imprisoning him in a system that prioritized efficiency over meaning. Weber saw this paradox as one of the greatest dilemmas of modernity. The more society organized itself rationally, the more it sacrificed the deep meaning of human life. This hidden price, Weber's dark secret, is what makes us question how far it is worth embracing rationality without reflecting on its impact on the human soul. In times of rapid technological and bureaucratic advancement, Weber's warning becomes even more urgent. Rationality, when not balanced, can lead to alienation, loss of purpose, and a suffocating sense of powerlessness in the face of systems that seem to dominate our lives. Weber used the metaphor of the iron cage to describe the situation of modern man in the age of extreme rationality. Unlike a physical prison, this cage is built with rules, routines, and structures that, although useful for social organization, end up restricting creativity, spontaneity, and individual freedom. Every step of life is measured, calculated, and regulated, transforming the human being into a functional cog in a gigantic social machine. Within this cage, bureaucracy is the main protagonist. It imposes procedures, forms, hierarchies, and routines that guarantee efficiency, but also fragment the human experience. Weber knew that this rationalization of administration was necessary for the functioning of modern societies, but he warned that it could lead to dehumanization. Civil servants, workers, and ordinary citizens are all trapped in routines that suffocate their souls and nullify their uniqueness. The price of rationality is thus revealed in the feeling of isolation and coldness that permeates everyday life. People cease to be emotional and complex beings and become mere agents of a system. The soul of society seems to fade away, while the impersonal logic of efficiency takes center stage. This invisible prison is so subtle that many do not even realize they are inside it, believing that this rational organization is synonymous with progress and freedom. Weber warned that this cage was not easy to escape, because rational institutions dominated all spheres of life: economic, political, religious, and cultural. Modernity had created a system so intricate and powerful that escape required profound courage to question the established order and seek meaning beyond cold calculation. Another fundamental aspect of the price of rationality for Weber is what he called the disenchantment of the world. This concept refers to the loss of the sacred, the mystical, the symbolic, and the mysterious that once permeated human life. In traditional societies, the forces of nature, social events, and even human relationships were interpreted in the light of magic, religion, and tradition. There was a spiritual dimension that gave meaning to everyday life. With the advance of rationality, this dimension was replaced by science, technology, and calculated logic. The world ceased to be seen as something full of mysteries and enchantments, and was reduced to data, numbers, and objective causes. This transformation was a triumph of knowledge, but also a spiritual impoverishment. The modern world became a disenchanted place, where meaning was displaced towards objectivity and functionality. This loss of the sacred is not just a cultural phenomenon, but has a profound impact on the human experience. Without wonder, life can seem empty, mechanical, and devoid of greater purpose. Weber saw this as a tragic condition of modernity, where man finds himself increasingly alone, disconnected from the symbolic roots that gave meaning to existence. Thus, the price of rationality is the erosion of what makes life rich and full, the ability to marvel, to believe, to dream, and to relate to the world in an emotional and spiritual way. Unbridled rationality leaves a void that cannot be filled with efficiency and technical progress alone. Weber's analysis reveals a fundamental dichotomy of modernity. Rational progress has brought extraordinary achievements, but it has also generated an unprecedented type of alienation. Science and technology have expanded human dominion over the world, improved health, increased production, and created new forms of communication. However, the cost of this progress has been the reduction of life to a set of mechanical and controlled processes. For Weber, modern man finds himself divided between the freedom provided by rational advancement and the loss of his own humanity. This duality generates tensions and dilemmas that are reflected in various aspects of contemporary society: excessive bureaucracy, the stress of urban life, the feeling of social disconnection, and even the increase in psychological disorders. Furthermore, rationalization imposes a fragmented worldview, where everything is divided into parts in order to be understood and controlled. This fragmentation makes it difficult to perceive the whole and to seek integral meaning, making life more superficial and scattered. The rationalized person becomes an expert in specific tasks, but loses sight of the complexity of existence. Weber, by revealing this dark secret of rationality, challenges us to find a balance. We must recognize the benefits of reason, but also seek ways to rescue lost humanity, cultivating spaces for meaning, emotion, spirituality, and creativity within the rational system. If the price of rationality is high, what would be the way to overcome it? Weber did not offer easy solutions, but he left clues for us to reflect on how to not succumb completely to the iron cage. Awareness of this problem is the first step to resisting alienation and seeking more authentic forms of life. One possibility is to value practices that are not exclusively subject to the logic of efficiency, such as art, religion, philosophy, and genuine human relationships. These spaces allow the recovery of meaning, emotion, and spiritual connection, offering resistance to disenchantment. The challenge is to create a balance between the rational and the symbolic, between control and freedom. Another important reflection is the need for constant criticism of the institutions and systems that govern our lives. Questioning rules, routines, and structures that stifle creativity and critical thinking is essential to preserving individual autonomy. Weber reminds us that progress should not be an end in itself, but a means to the integral development of the human being. Finally, in today's world, marked by advanced technology and artificial intelligence, Weber's warning is even more relevant. We need to reflect on how to maintain our humanity amidst increasingly automated and rational systems. The dark secret of rationality is there to remind us that progress without meaning is a prison, and that true freedom requires a balance between reason and soul. Rationality, according to Weber, can be understood at different levels. One of them is instrumental rationality, which refers to the use of reason as a means to achieve specific ends in an efficient and calculated way. This type of rationality dominates economics, politics, and management, shaping our decisions to maximize results and minimize costs. Although useful and necessary for the functioning of the modern world, this instrumental rationality can become tyrannical. When efficient calculation comes to govern all spheres of life, ends become absolute and means become mere tools to achieve them. This view reduces human values to mere variables in an equation, ignoring fundamental aspects such as ethics, emotion, justice, and dignity. The tyranny of instrumental rationality transforms man into an object and life into a technical problem to be solved. Weber warned that this logic could lead to excessive bureaucratization, where everything must be measured, predicted, and controlled. In this scenario, creativity and flexibility give way to rigidity and conformism. Efficiency ceases to be an instrument, and becomes an end in itself, erasing the diversity and spontaneity of social life. The price of this instrumental rationality is the weakening of critical thinking and moral autonomy. People begin to act more out of obligation than conviction, and the world becomes a closed system, dominated by the logic of technology and control. Extreme rationality brings with it a profound crisis of the human spirit, a crisis that Weber identified as one of the central characteristics of modernity. Amid the relentless search for order and control, modern man finds himself confronted with an existential void, a sense of helplessness in the face of the vastness of the systems he has created. The disenchantment of the world is not just an external phenomenon, but an internal experience of alienation and fragmentation. The individual feels increasingly disconnected from traditions, community, and self. This spiritual crisis fuels the nihilism, pessimism, and hopelessness that mark contemporary culture. Weber observed that rationalization had destroyed many of the old systems of meaning, such as traditional religion and mythological worldviews, without providing adequate replacements to fill the void left behind. Thus, modern man is left adrift, searching for new forms of meaning in an increasingly bureaucratic and technical world. This conflict between reason and meaning is one of the great challenges of today, showing that rational progress is no guarantee of happiness or human fulfillment. Despite the dominance of rationality in modernity, Weber realized that there are forces of resistance that seek to restore the balance between reason and meaning. These movements, although often marginal, represent attempts to recover the charm, emotion, and symbolic value of life. Examples of such resistance can be found in the arts, renewed religion, social activism, and philosophies that value subjectivity and human experience. The search for authenticity, meaning, and interpersonal connection challenges the cold logic of bureaucracy and efficiency. Furthermore, critical questioning of institutional structures and activism for social justice are ways to combat the dehumanization caused by rationalization. Through criticism and conscious action, it is possible to open cracks in the iron cage and create spaces for creativity and freedom. Weber invites us to recognize that rationality, to be truly human, must be tempered with values that respect the dignity and complexity of being. This renewal requires courage to challenge the status quo and rethink the relationship between technology, society, and spirit. With the dizzying advance of technology, instrumental rationality has reached levels never seen before. Artificial intelligence, automation, and algorithms are increasingly regulating aspects of social and individual life. Weber's system of rationalization, which he once saw as a cage, has now become a complex network of invisible and omnipresent control. This new stage of rationality raises crucial questions about the future of humanity. Will technology further deepen alienation, or will it be a tool to find meaning again? The challenge is how to use these powerful technological tools without losing the essence of humanity. Weber warns us of the urgent need to reflect on the balance between technical mastery and the cultivation of human values. Without this reflection, rationality could turn into technological tyranny, where man submits himself to machines and systems that he himself created, losing control over his destiny. The question that remains is, will we be able to build a modernity that preserves the spirit, or will we be destined to live eternally trapped in an increasingly sophisticated cage? Max Weber left a fundamental legacy for understanding the dilemmas of modernity and the price we pay for unbridled rationality. His warning is not an invitation to abandon progress, but a call for us to be aware of the limits of reason and the human consequences of our social choices. The dark secret of rationality, the iron cage, and the disenchantment of the world are concepts that challenge us to think deeply about who we are and what we want to build as a society. They invite us to seek a delicate balance between efficiency and humanity, between science and spirituality, between control and freedom. For Weber, salvation lies in the capacity for critical reflection and the search for meaning beyond numbers and technical processes. It is a call for courage to resist dehumanization and preserve what is most precious in the human experience, the ability to dream, feel, and connect with the world and with others. In times where technical rationality dominates, remembering the price we pay is essential to not lose the essence of what makes us truly human.